The name Perkins carved in stone. Below a Gothic tower, a boy navigates with a cane. Social Thinking and Students Who Are Visually Impaired, a Theoretical Framework with Brett Page, EDS, NCSP, and school psychologist. This is information that Brett shared with conference participants when he spoke at Perkins.
Well, I'm here to really talk to staff about the importance of explicitly teaching social thinking concepts throughout the fabric of a school day, from the morning our kids get up to the minute they go to sleep. And that our kids, it's really important for our staff to explicitly be able to learn what the social thinking concepts are, how to explicitly teach it, and so that we can really help our kids understand how to adapt to life socially, which is a very complex topic for them to understand. Social thinking, in a nutshell, is really being able to impact other people in a positive social way, which then positively impacts us.
In a video clip, two boys who are blind are greeting each other in the school cafe.
Hello, Kenny. Hey, Chris. Hey, Chris. Hello, Adam.
So just like we're talking right now and having a positive social interaction, it's really important for all our kids to understand all the rules and specific techniques that we take for granted because we are visually observing everything from the moment we were born all the way through life, that a lot of our kids, because of their lack of visual observation abilities, or to none, and maybe other additional developmental challenges, that we need to more explicitly teach all those things we take for granted that are just normal for us to understand regarding how to interact in various social situations throughout the day.
Fade to black. A graphic of the Perkins logo swoops across the screen, revealing a chapter heading, Early Social Development.
Well, at the forefront or the beginning of social interactions is the development of joint attention. To be able to, with another person, another child, another adult, to be able to look at each other and share visually a social interaction, to understand we're both in the same space together, and to start to develop some warmth of this is the way life is, that we should be together. And that from infancy, if I am visual, I'm able to just on a moment-to-moment basis observe adults and other children, how they play, how they interact, how they problem solve, how they communicate, and that is the beginning of higher level social thinking. And to be able to then start to, from there, gradually develop parallel play, cooperative play.
In a photograph, a toddler in a pink dress stands inside a preschool playroom holding an inflatable ball behind her head. She appears to be gazing at a playmate who stands out of frame. In the background, we see other children playing on the colorful rug and beanbag chairs.
Gradually, as we're getting into, typically by age 3 or 4, we are not only be able to interact, we know that other people have thoughts. And that not only that they have thoughts, but that we know they're thinking about us and we're thinking about them, and that we get each other, which is really developing the beginning of perspective taking, which is, or a lot of people would like to call, theory of mind. And that's a really critical thing in early development, from a toddler to beginning before kindergarten, is that our kids who are sighted and are typically developing neurologically, they have all those basic skills for play, for their communication, their beginning lexicon of skills are developed and ready to go beginning in kindergarten. And it wasn't really explicitly taught. A lot of it was just through natural observation. So that's something that our children who are severely visually impaired, blind, and may have additional disabilities on top of that, is that they don't get that luxury of being able to just naturally observe how the world works.
In a video clip, two young girls who are visually impaired and multiply disabled are engaged in mutual play. They are being taught how to take turns while playing.
There you go. I'll put it right there.
I think that's where we start, is that we're starting to think about, if I engage in expected behaviors and what those expected behaviors are for a specific situation, that's going to lead to more positive outcomes. It's going to lead towards people who are interacting with me to have more positive thoughts and feelings about me, which then is going to lead to them having more positive interactions with me, which then leads to me feeling better about myself, which then leads to that positive communication process happening.
Fade to black. The social learning tree and the ILAUGH model.
The way that this intervention model works is that we're really trying to go well beyond looking at just the surface behaviors and understanding the complexity of everything that goes into that. A good referential model that the Michelle Garcia winner and her social thinking counterparts developed is called the social learning tree.
We see a graphic depiction of the social learning tree as described. The roots of the social learning tree, skills such as joint attention, executive functioning, central coherence, theory of mind, and emotional recognition and reciprocation are the basic skills from which more complex social interactions are developed.
Basically, the skills that we're talking about that we often typically work on with most people, and especially in our field of working with children and adults with visual impairments and blindness, is we work on those surface skills of we're going to improve their ability to communicate. We're going to be able to help them develop better playground skills like sharing and turn taking, without understanding all of the basic foundational skills that go into that. And the social learning tree really helps visually for those of us to look at what all goes into those basic behaviors that are those critical behaviors that help us integrate to various situations in life. All those just initial core skills lead towards that's just underneath the surface. And then we're thinking about what Michelle has really taught is what's called the ILAUGH model, which is really, if you think about a tree, that's the trunk. And that's what really drives social interactions. And you know, it's beautiful that she's really explicitly taught and brought the roadmap up of what that is. So not only have we taught about the root structure, now we're thinking about here's the trunk of the tree of what social interactions, what really drives all those surface skills we're talking about.
Again, we see the graphic of social learning depicted as a tree. ILAUGH is an acronym for the skills that make up the trunk of the social learning tree, and we see the words that correspond to the 6 skills related to the ILAUGH model of social thinking.
The ILAUGH model, at the core of that is, I means initiating, L is listening. Now she likes to talk about it as listening with your eyes. For children with severe visual impairments or blindness, we like to teach them it's listening with all our available sensory information. And the A stands for abstract inferential thinking. The U is for understanding perspective. G is for gestalt or big picture processing. And H is humor, that in all our social interactions, humor is really a connective tissue for quality of our social interactions. That's really what this intervention model does. It helps give a roadmap to really truly understanding everything that goes into that. And for our kids, that roadmap is something that we need to look at them individually, look at their strengths, look at their interests, look at their capabilities, and think about how are we going to teach explicitly this roadmap to them in a way that's not going to cure, per se, their challenges, but it's going to help them make the most progress towards when they're in that playground situation, when they're in that classroom, that they're able to interact as effectively as possible and positively impact others, which in turn then positively impacts them.
Fade to black. Situational norms, the hidden social curriculum.
So really just starting with things such as that is understanding that expected behaviors lead to positive outcomes and that expected behaviors change based on the context within you're in. So that there's like a hidden social curriculum that goes in throughout the day and it changes. That's the tough part. It changes based on where you're at and what the situation is. So it's not like we can just teach rigid social skills. We're teaching them how to think about how to apply social skills in various situations.
In a series of 2 video clips, we see students who are blind and/or multiply disabled interacting in different social situations. The first shows a group of friends chatting and laughing while waiting for a school assembly to begin. The next clip shows a group of students eating lunch at a table. A teacher sits with them and engages one of the girls in a conversation about the movie Frozen.
In the movie Frozen?
Yeah.
What character was she?
She was the main character.
Elsa.
Elsa?
So really, we're not really per se teaching higher level social thinking concepts, but we are trying to help them adapt. So that's for our very more challenged kids. And then as we're merging up the developmental food chain of social communication skills, we become to be able to integrate those concepts in a more increasingly higher way to, for instance, for a kid who's emerging into social thinking communication, we are developing perspective-taking skills. We probably still need to be very concrete in our general approach. We probably have some applied behavioral analysis principles and reinforcement that's very explicit. We're probably really talking about here's the specific social context we're in, really trying to explicitly teach the hidden social curriculum and rules within it.
In a video clip, we see a boy who is blind attempting to purchase a fruit snack in the student cafe. There has been a misunderstanding regarding what kind of snack the boy wanted.
I meant the Welchers.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That perspective taking, that there's actually, without even communicating, there's a mental process that's going on. Is that, I'm looking at you, or I'm aware that there's somebody in my space, and, do they want to talk to me? And that they have thoughts along with my thoughts, and I need to then think about, do they want to interact? And if so, how am I going to modify my behavior and actions to develop an interaction and see if they would like to continue in that social interaction?
In a video clip, several students who are blind or visually disabled sit at small tables. One group has asked a couple at an adjacent table to either change the subject that they are discussing or keep their voices lower.
Can we stop complaining and stop arguing?
Hi, Justin.
Can we get along, please? Because
We're not arguing.
this is, I know, but you're complaining about this and that.
And
I don't want to hear
I don't
it.
mind the complaining to an extent, but you guys are saying some really random things.
I don't want to hear it.
And I think that's kind of the big difference from where we, as a field working with children with visual impairments or blindness, have been historically. We've worked on those surface social skills as a whole profession, and we know the importance of that, of how to initiate a greeting, how to say thank you, how to be polite, how to ask for help. The problem is that how we do all that changes based on the situation, and when we should say it, how we should say it, how we then respond to somebody. So I really think it's really critical we start beginning with those basic foundational skills of understanding what's expected. Rules change from various situations, and then we're going to give you common vocabulary that helps you guide through that process.
Fade to black. Moving from perspective taking to initiating communication.
I think one of the key elements beyond explicitly teaching perspective taking skills, one of the keys to that is just physical presence, which is something our field has increasingly talked a lot about. There's a lot of great publications being developed on just those specific how we present ourselves. That is a way of, even though we can't see maybe that person who we're interacting with, we're needing to really think in a visual way about how we're presenting ourselves, because they're making thoughts and feelings and impressions of us based on how we look. And that's just the way it is. There's no way of getting around that. But for our kids, that's something we need to explicitly teach. And it's really one of the beginning things that I think is really critical for parents and for teachers, especially with younger children, to really start to explicitly teach what physical presence, appropriate physical presence is, and how that leads to really the beginning of effective communication and or higher level quality communication.
In a video clip, a young woman who is visually impaired is shown being introduced to a man who has just listened to her speak at a school assembly.
Your name is?
Molly.
Molly, you did a great job today.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
It really teaches that we use our physical presence, our posture. If we have eyesight or limited eyesight, we are using or thinking with our eyes. We're using our auditory skills to really hone in on the person and listen for intent. in their communication, where they are in space. We're also even listening, that listening is actually listening with your heart. There's a warmth to our social interactions. We're using our brain to really listen in. So there's a lot that goes in, and we can just that in itself, teaching provides a roadmap of what effective listening looks like in a rote way. And if even that is taught explicitly for kids who are severely visually impaired or blind, that's a beginning, one of those game changer concepts to our kids, because it's tangible, it makes sense, and it empowers them to use everything they've got to be an effective communicator. I'll use, for instance, hula hoops as a beginning concrete concept of teaching.
In a graphic illustration, cartoon figures of a young boy and an adult female are shown standing side by side. As we watch, a circle the size of a large hula hoop surrounds the two figures.
For instance, a larger hula hoop is just in general a good size of physical space for any general social interaction with anybody who's an acquaintance, somebody we just met, and that provides kind of an initial tangible, concrete understanding of what physical space starts to look like. We're teaching them, okay, so let's put on our whole body listening skills, and that's a first cue. That's something that a parent could do at home. They're saying, hey, I notice you're really doing some great whole body listening skills. But then also making them think about, okay, what are some of the expected distances within a social situation there should be? Here I'm at the dinner table with my family, or I'm in the classroom at school. What are the hidden social rules about appropriate personal space? And making them think about that versus it being a rote concept, like there's just the one arm's length rule or the large hula hoop rule. That, wow, it's not just the relationships with people, but it's the situation I'm in, and that there are hidden social rules for every one of those. And we're needing to think about these things. They're not just the same rote concepts throughout.
Fade to black. Social thinking and satisfaction.
The consequences are exponential throughout life, from just beginning to develop friendships and understanding and valuing friendships, and understanding all that goes into that, which obviously leads to happiness. And that's really the goal of all this, is our kids being socially happy with their life and doing positive things with their life from elementary, preschool, elementary, adolescence, all the way through adulthood. And that changes what that happiness looks like, and that we're trying to really help them develop the social skills that are going to allow them to have that quality of richness of interactions throughout life, so that they're not only happy, but we're shielding them from feeling depressed, from feeling socially anxious, to not developing friendships, to feeling that they're not capable of getting good grades in school because they're not being able to think about all the things involved with thinking at higher levels for like reading comprehension, written expression, being able to plan effectively, how to problem solve. And then eventually as adults, we're hopefully trying to lead for them for successful employment in the community and living independently.
In a video clip, we see a young couple, both of whom are blind, holding hands as they sit among their friends. They have developed enough self-confidence and social skills to begin exploring a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
All right, my love. You want to come with me?
So social interactions are at the forefront of all that. And being able to get a job, to be able to maintain a job, to be able to maintain friendships, and problem solve with your roommate or live with your family. So it's critical. It's what our kids have the most challenges with in life, and being able to eventually as adults lead to successful employment and socially quality interactions with other human beings, which is what we're all trying to do.
Fade to black. Additional resources.
First and foremost, if you're looking for specifically social thinking related information and materials, the best place to go first is to Michelle Garcia Winter's website, socialthinking.com. On that website, there is just a plethora of information. There's an icon that just says, what is social thinking? And there will be a drop-down menu of just a ton of very tangible, explicit information for you to read up on what is social thinking, to what the ILAUGH model is.
In a photograph, we see the cover of one of Michelle Garcia Winter's books, Thinking About You, Thinking About Me. The cover illustration is two sets of eyeballs looking at one another. Above each set of eyes floats an empty thought cloud.
I think also what right now I'm working on is we're working on, in collaboration with Michelle, and the American Printing House for the Blind, on taking Michelle's materials and creating them in ways that are more user-friendly for the visual impairment and blindness community, so that parents and adults or teachers can take the materials such as Thinking About You, Thinking About Me, and how would I apply that to our kids, and giving very tangible, explicit activities that would go along with that.